is here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Welcome. Half the country's going to get a slam of snow here. I know we are. So I'm in Virginia, Mr. Producer, as you well know, when my residence is in Florida. Now, how ridiculous is that? Seriously, how ridiculous is that? But for reasons I cannot explain, here I be. Here I be at Virginia. So we will get hammered. I believe it starts Saturday night. And I'm talking to many people who are also going to get hammered. Now, those of you who aren't, you can enjoy yourselves watching the rest of us, but it won't be fun. Now, I used to shovel snow. It was good exercise. But I'm not allowed to shovel snow anymore because it hurts my chest, quite frankly. You know, the bypass a few decades back and 5 stents, I'm just not allowed to. It's very weird, Mr. Producer, because when it's really cold outside and if I walk like 20 yards, your chest feels it because your arteries here tighten up. And that's why they tell you if you have heart issues, do not shovel snow, because it could be the last time you do anything. But I find that to be the case. And I'm under the best of care, one of the best of places, and I have been for decades. With fantastic doctors. Nothing going to happen to me. I'm just pointing something out, that you got to be careful out there. And, I'm seeing 10 to 14 inches of snow. I hope they're way off. Fingers crossed, but I don't know. Now, where I live, that'll take about 7 years to clear out, Mr. Producer. Our community, there's only so much they can handle, and you can understand that. This isn't what they do. On our streets, takes a long time because they hit the main streets, so we get stuck here for a while. And I'm sure the same applies to most of you. But, don't hoard stuff. It'll be a few days. If you got plenty of toilet paper, you don't need to get more. I'm just being quite serious. What are you going to do? Be holed up and have a toilet paper fight? There's only so much toilet paper you can use in 3 or 4 days. Just saying. Same with milk. People buy tons and tons and why? Buy a gallon or 2 and you're set. You're set. But people act like they're going to be gone for a month or 2. You're not going to be gone for a month or 2. Quite the contrary. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to talk about, and we shall. But I cannot get my mind off of Iran and the people in Iran, and I know the media have become bored with the topic. They're moving on. I know leading politicians have become bored with the topic. They're moving on. The Democrats barely ever spoke about it in the first place. But the slaughter's going on. It's going on as I speak. And the Kurds are being slaughtered horrifically. Now, this guy that runs Syria is not a reform al-Qaeda terrorist. He's a terrorist. And the Islamo Nazi who runs Iran is a terrorist. Now, the Islamo Nazi who runs Iran, in my humble opinion, needs to be taken out. It's not enough to close down their economy. Their economy's almost closed down as it is. He needs to be removed and sent to his maker so his maker can can send him to hell. Guy's 86 years old. He's got more blood on his hands than one can imagine. And there's more and more stories. You can read them on the internet. People who aren't even protesting, who are on the street, they're just being executed left and right because you have animals let loose now. ISIS is now loose in Syria. Thousands of them. Because of Erdogan and the Islamo Nazi that runs Syria. I see things getting a lot worse in the Middle East, not better. I think Netanyahu and the Seventh Front War was enormously successful. But I think post this war, you can see what Iran is doing, you can see what Syria is doing, and I think we fool ourselves to believe that the guy that runs Syria is some kind of reformer, unless reforming means slaughtering in the most horrendous ways Kurds, our allies, our friends. He's no reformer. He's a mass murderer. And so is Erdogan. And so is Khamenei. And Qatar funds it. Qatar supports it. Saudi Arabia funds it. Saudi Arabia supports it. Again, just because they come to our country and they have meetings and they play the role and so forth and so on, forget it. Forget it. Now, Abul Fazi Yabadabadu, the spokesman for Iran's armed forces, had this to say yesterday, and this is by way of a translator. Cut one, go.
We do not pay attention to Trump's bluster. He knows that if any hand is raised to assault our leader, we will not only cut off that hand decisively and courageously, and this is not just rhetoric, but we will set their world on fire. We will strip them of any security and leave no safe place for them.
See, any foreign government that talks to us this way needs to be dealt with. Needs to be dealt with. Now, I'm hoping still, when the USS Abraham Lincoln finally arrives, and the rest finally arrive, that we will blow this regime off the face of the earth. And I feel like the president is well aware of this. I have no inside information. As time goes on, the whole psychology of this changes. Just because reporters don't report about it, people start to begin to think it's not taking place. It is taking place right now. And in the long run, more people will be slaughtered than were slaughtered in the first 3 weeks of this revolution. And that's the truth. And these are mostly young people. As far as the Kurds go, they're being decapitated. They're being scalped. These are animals. They're not even animals. They're subhumans. These killers. They're subhumans, these Islamist terrorists. I posted one video where one of the ISIS militia was holding up a piece of the scalp of a Kurd he had murdered. The inhumanity is just beyond belief. The inhumanity is just, I don't know how people can tolerate this, even watching it or thinking about it. I just don't. And then they keep threatening our president. They keep threatening us. Since when do we Americans put up with this? I'm quite serious. Since never. Now, we're going to know soon enough if we're going to pound the living hell out of these regimes, which I think we should. There's a great piece in Real Clear Politics by our friend Roger Zakim and Michael Stanton. And Zakim is really a sharp guy at the Reagan Institute. And I want to get into this with you a little bit. We have a lot to cover, and we're going to cover a lot. President Trump's golden defense opportunity, which reminds me, just so the record's clear, the Iron Dome in Israel was developed by the Israelis. They signed a memorandum of understanding with the United States in the late 1990s or early 2000s. We were having a big problem with Congress. Reagan was having a big problem with Congress when he first came out with SDI. They kept cutting the funds and making it very difficult to get it off the ground. It was being mocked, but the Israelis took the opportunity to actually develop it. The Iron Dome was developed by the Israelis, and they have provided the technology to us. In addition, as we've talked about here, they're way ahead of every country on the face of the earth on lasers, and they're now actually putting them in the field. And they're also using them as part of their Iron Dome defense system. So, to our credit, we help provide them with funds. But you see, people don't understand this. We get back 10 times the value that we spend on these things. 10 times the value. They take our F-16, they improve it, and they give that information to our military companies. We have a missile system, they improve it, they provide that information to us. It's one after another, after another, after another. These people are battle-hardened. And sometimes some of the weapons we have that have not been used in the battlefield, they use them first. And they get back to our production companies and they tell them what works, what doesn't work, and how to improve them. And they provide advice on how to improve them. We don't have another ally on the face of the earth like this. But of course Benjamin Netanyahu is going to talk about what they have developed, and why shouldn't he? And I can prove beyond anything that they did this. The Raphael Corporation, the general in charge of these projects, they go from one project to another because they have to be technologically ahead of everybody else if they're going to survive. They have to be. So, truth be told, we will be using technology that the Israelis developed to help build our Golden Dome. And we should be proud of that. They're our ally. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
As you can see, it's taken a while to move our carriers from here to there, and that's normal. They moved them out of the Middle East. But it's taken a while to do that. And like I said, our friend Roger Zackheim and Michael Stanton have a piece at Real Clear Politics. They say, lost in the news coming out of Greenland and Iran was President Trump's announcement earlier this month that his next defense budget request will total $1.5 trillion. If enacted, this would be the largest peacetime defense budget increase in history, surpassing even the budgets of President Reagan's buildup. Excuse me. President Trump ran on a peace through strength platform, and over the past year has exercised American military strength to restore deterrence. Now, for the first time, the president is pairing his use of the military with a peace-through-strength budget. And if leveraged correctly, he will succeed not only in weakening America's adversaries, but also in revitalizing the U.S. military for future generations of Americans. The first year of President Trump's second term was defined by his restoration of deterrence using military force across a spectrum of conflicts. Operation Rough Rider neutralized a non-state Houthi threat emanating from Yemen, while sophisticated uses of force against Iran and Venezuela degraded junior members of the axis of evil, although Iran is here. The Golden Dome, the Golden Fleet, and the Drone Dominance Initiative seek to reinforce nuclear and conventional deterrence against China, a superpower rival undertaking the largest nuclear and naval buildup since World War II. President Trump's use of the military has been decisive and operationally impressive, but it has not come without costs. Munition shortages have complicated missions, while inadequate force structure has left the Navy and Air Force with too few ships and aircraft to effectively operate in critical regions of the world simultaneously, as we see right now. These shortfalls are reflective of a military utilized at a wartime pace, yet funded by flat defense budgets more suited to the post-Cold War era of the 1990s rather than the world in 2026. Excuse me, cholera. In the 2010s, persistent operations in the Middle East combined with sequestration caps at home resulted in a decade of neglect for the U.S. military. Defense planners were forced to make damaging trade-offs between immediate needs and building tomorrow's force. The president's request is $500 billion larger than the Pentagon's FY26 budget and throws these trade-offs out the window. Depending how the request is executed, it could result in a 20 to 50% increase year over year and amount to a 4 to 5% of GDP dedicated to national defense. And that's what it was under Reagan, by the way, 5%. It will allow the Pentagon to build at scale and integrate next-generation platforms while sustaining urgently needed modernization programs already in progress. And what else would it allow? Us to be in all seas as needed. Last time the Pentagon built for both the present and future was the 80s. It was the Reagan budget. During Reagan's second term, growth allowed next-generation technologies such as GPS, infrared, precision-guided munitions to become ubiquitous throughout our military. It's needed badly. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the conscience of conservatism. Call Mark now at 877-381-3811.
Well, let's move to Greenland. I don't mean move to Greenland. Can you imagine that, Mr. Producer? It'd be the snowstorm we're getting every damn day. I can live. It'd be like Buffalo, New York. Nothing against Buffalo, of course, but I don't know how people tolerate it. But we will. We can handle it. Now, I'm not a fan of this Mediaite website. They just are trashing Trump left and right. It's become Media Matters. That's Dan Abrams. Dan Abrams is a Democrat, a left-winger, and they have figured out a model with the most hysterical titles as possible and just stir the pot endlessly and trash Trump 80% of the time, maybe 90% of the time. But they write here, Alex Grifter writes, that would be Alex Grifter, NATO released a statement shortly after President Donald Trump announced he and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte had formed a framework of a deal on Greenland. The NATO statement came amid new reporting from the New York Times that the deal may include the U.S. being given sovereignty over small pockets of land in Greenland. Trump has recently vowed to acquire Greenland from NATO ally Denmark, including by using military force, although he said today that that wasn't the case. They're going to need to update their propaganda. NATO spokesperson Alison Hart released a statement saying the Secretary General had a very productive meeting with the President, during which they discussed the critical significance of security in the Arctic region and to all allies, including the United States. Let me just stop there. See, President Trump, there's a couple of things that by now we know about him, but others should learn about him. He moves the needle. He moves the needle by the way he states things, which upset the establishment, which upset the media, which can upset people some of the time. He's talking about we're going to take Greenland. We're going to push Greenland. And why does he do it that way? Does anybody think he's going to send troops to Greenland? Does anybody think he's going to bomb Greenland? Well, what's he doing? It's the art of the deal. And the way he says these things and then follows up with them like this has hugely important consequences. Hugely important. Now there's literally a discussion, if this story is correct, about certain sovereignty pockets, small pockets that the United States would have sovereignty over for military and commercial purposes. Now, that wasn't even a discussion 24 hours ago. And furthermore, I want you to look at a map. Pull it up on your iPhone. Pull it up on whatever you use. Look at a map. Look where Greenland is. Look why it's so important. Look at the Arctic. Why are the Communist Chinese and the Russians together working so hard? They have 10 bases in the Arctic. 10. Why are they doing that? They're doing it for their subs. They're doing it for their fleet. They have an enormous number of icebreaker ships. We don't. We've now been ordering icebreaker ships under Trump. Icebreaker ships. Biden didn't do anything. Of course, Obama didn't do anything. So the president sees these problems and he tries to address them. And you got to move the bureaucracy. You got to move the culture, which apparently is not these days sufficiently concerned to move the needle. He is. He is. That's what's going on. They go on. Discussions among NATO allies on the framework of the president referenced will focus on ensuring Arctic security through the collective efforts of allies, especially the 7 Arctic allies. Negotiations between Denmark, Greenland, and the United States will go forward, aimed at ensuring Russia and China never gain a foothold economically or militarily in Greenland. Why? There's about 12 people that live in Greenland, and it is a massive, we call it an island, it's really kind of a continent, but it is massive. Much larger than Alaska. And it's there for the taking, and the president's thinking, if a war breaks out, Russia and China are going to take Greenland, really without firing a shot, and down the road, they're going to steal all the rare earth minerals out of there, of which there is an enormous amount, which have not been mined. The president refused to offer any specifics of the deal when pressed by CNBC's Joe Kernan in an interview shortly after the announcement, but said the deal would be forever, and confirmed he was dropping the threat of additional tariffs on Europe. The Times reported NATO members discussed a compromise in which Denmark would give the United States sovereignty over small pockets of Greenland, where the United States could build military bases, according to 3 senior officials familiar with the discussion. That wouldn't even be part of the discussion, but for the fact that President Trump has done what he's done. And he gets no credit from the Washington ruling class. None. And the Democrats belittle him. The Democrats attack him. Democrats went over to Greenland to stand in unity with the government over there. This is what they do. The Times added, the idea came from Rutte, a former prime minister of the Netherlands who is seen as being close to Trump. The official spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss a sensitive diplomatic matter and said the idea was one of Mr. Rutte's. He had been pursuing. 2 of the officials who attended the meeting compared it to the United Kingdom's bases in Cyprus, which are regarded as British territory. I think it's brilliant. If they can get that done, it's brilliant. I really believe that. And there's not a Democrat who wants to be president who would have thought of it or done it. They would capitulate to the Communist Chinese and to the Russians, as they did to the Iranians, as they did to the Palestinians, as they did to Venezuela, as they did to Cuba, as they have to all of them. Let's be honest. But in this case, none of this would be happening but for Trump. And remember what else he had said when he came into office. Panama is ours. The Panama Canal belongs to us. Our people died building it. We engineered it. We built it. Many thousands of people died building that. It should never have been given away. And now that the Chinese are running both ends of the canal with contracts with Panama, it is a dire national security threat. And it's in the Monroe Doctrine, our hemisphere. And we're going to take it back. So what happened? They threw out the Chinese, and now we run both ends of the Panama Canal. Nobody even talks about that anymore. Nobody. Except me, of course. So that's what's happening. Now, the president is asked questions when he's in Davos. He gave a significant speech, I thought. And he's asked about this board of peace. What if Hamas doesn't disarm in 2 or 3 weeks? This is the one area I'm getting more concerned about, this so-called board of peace, Hamas disarming. We've lowered the bar. We've lowered the standard. We've changed phase 2. They were supposed to do it within days. It's been now months and months. But let's take a listen to this. Cut 2, go.
I mean, I think we have peace in the Middle East. There are some little situations like Hamas, and Hamas has agreed to give up their weapons. Now, you know, they were born with a weapon in their hand, so it's not easy to do. When they were born with a rifle in their hand. It's not an easy thing for them, but that's what they agreed to. They've got to do it. And we're going to know, Jared, over the next 2 or 3 days, certainly over the next 3 weeks, whether or not they're going to do it. If they don't do it, they'll be blown away very quickly. They'll be blown away. You know, we have 59 countries that are part of that whole.
Well, let's stop right there. Blown away by whom? Are we going to get into a war in Gaza? No. Are we going to send jet fighters over there? No. Bombers? No. We're going to send troops? Of course not. So who's going to blow them away? We're going to have to rely on the Israelis again and the IDF. Country of 9 million people. They've already lost 1,000 soldiers, the equivalent of 35,000 American soldiers. And they're going to be expected to go back in after they were urged to get out, after the enemy was surrounded there in Gaza City. And they're going to have to go back in. Now, my fear is none of this is going to happen. That there'll be a claim by the Palestinians and envoys and others. Well, effectively, they have disarmed, so we can go forward. And you got countries like Turkey involved and Qatar involved. That is, in my view, absolutely ridiculous. That's my view. Countries that sponsor Hamas, sponsor ISIS, support Iran, the Iranian regime. I mean, you know what I mean. It's ridiculous. So we're going to see how it plays out, in my view. Maybe things will quiet down for the 3 years that President Trump is president, but it's not going to quiet down forever, that's for sure. You now have more ISIS murderers who've been released from prison in the last 48 hours, thousands of them, thanks to the Turks and thanks to the Syrian regime. We have a piece in the Free Beacon that, in fact, Hamas is rebuilding, they're rearming. So it's even going to be harder to disarm them. And, you know, there could be some kind of a kabuki dance or something like that by the Turks and the Qataris and so forth, who I despise and I certainly don't trust. That's how I see it. Cut 3, go, please.
I think it's the greatest board ever formed. And we call it the Board of Peace. That's what it is. It's the Board of Peace. And it started on Gaza, and I appreciate what you said on Gaza, because it's true. If we weren't involved, there'd be no peace. It's peace. We have peace in the Middle East now. And you might have Hamas.
Well, you don't have peace in Iran. You don't have peace in Syria, that's for sure. Lebanon, Hezbollah was effectively defeated by the Israelis. Hamas was effectively defeated, but has survived by the Israelis. We took out, thank God, the nuclear sites in Iran, and they promised to rebuild them. But that's the state of play. Go ahead.
flame here and there, but basically that'll be taken out. If they don't get rid of the guns, then they will be very unhappy people. We'll have no choice. They will be eliminated. They made a deal to get out. You have Hezbollah in Lebanon. We have to do something there. And, they're causing a lot of problems. But
again, the Israelis are doing something there. I think what the president is saying, we're going to allow the Israelis to finish them off and finish the other ones off. It's not going to be so easy now. They got to go back in there, house to house, alley to alley, to do it. We're, I think, means the Israelis with our backing and with our military support, armaments and so forth. Those who keep asking why are we aligned with Israel are really buffoonish. At this point, you have to be a lunatic to wonder. Go ahead.
Well, we actually have peace in the Middle East, and the president was very instrumental. He really helped us, one of the most. And we've had great help from a number of countries, but Egypt has been great. The president's been great.
Actually, Egypt hasn't done crap, in my humble opinion, except ensure that the Palestinians in Gaza couldn't get out. I'm just giving you my opinion. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The president cut 4 in Davos. Go.
Had we not gone in and knocked out with those big, beautiful, we just ordered 25 brand new ones, the latest and the greatest, the B-2 bomber. Think of them, they went in there at 2 o'clock in the morning with no moon, no light, no nothing, and every single one of those massive bombs hit its target, 100,000-pound bombs hit its target, every one of them. And then on top of it...
And the good news is, when they went in, all the radar was knocked out. All the ground-to-air, surface-to-air Russian missile systems, highly advanced, they were knocked out by the Israelis, who basically cleared the path. And the genius of these bombers was that they went in unnoticed, very significantly high in the sky, with these massive bombs, and they pinpoint hit their targets. That's the genius of this. Go ahead.
100 miles away, we hit the sites with tomahawks, which is an unbelievable weapon. So, we did our job. If we didn't do that, you would have never had peace in the Middle East. And the countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar could never have, and others could never have signed anything because you would have had this dark cloud, and the dark cloud was Iran with nuclear. Iran would, if we didn't take them out, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 months. They were very close to having the nuclear weapon, and we hit them hard. And it was a total obliteration. If they may try again, but they're going to have to try from a different area because that area was obliterated.
And let me just say that it was a historic decision by the president. If you remember back then in June, there were forces within, I won't even say the MAGA movement, these neo-Nazi forces, who were trying to hijack the MAGA movement, which in many ways is the old Tea Party movement, to pressure the president against doing that, and to pressure the president against supporting the Israelis going to war with the Iranians. None of this would have happened. None of it. Go ahead.
We did, and because we did that, we were able to make peace. If we didn't do that, I would say, Jared and Steve, if we didn't do that, there was no chance of making peace because the countries I just named and other countries could have never signed off. They were afraid. They were afraid.
But patting Qatar on the head and Saudi Arabia on the head and the UAE on the head, what did they do? Did they do something, Mr. Producer? No. The Israelis were on their own with backing from the United States. That was the bottom line. While Europe was demanding a Palestinian state, while our Western media was printing lies about the Israelis committing acts of genocide and starving people, all lies. It's obvious now. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. There's other things going on in the world, like this continued relentless assault on ICE. They are trying to beat down ICE. They're trying to beat down the administration. They're trying to persuade you, Mr. and Mrs. America, of the righteousness of their position. They're trying to convince you that this is out of the ordinary, that in fact it's extraordinary, that it's abusive, that they're grabbing citizens off the street. They want you to believe it's Iran, although they don't really criticize Iran. They criticize the United States. And it is appalling what's taking place here. Absolutely appalling. And they're trying to turn the guys in the white hats into the guys in the black hats, and they're trying to attack law enforcement, where these men and women put their lives on the line to protect us. And the militia is getting more and more violent. Peter Schweitzer was on the program last evening. He explained what's taking place. I've explained what's taking place. These aren't spontaneous riots. These are organized. These are funded. The Soros crowd, the Islamist crowd, the Marxist crowd, billionaires in our country, billionaires overseas, dark money, so in many cases you can't trace it back. You see them with the same signs popping up at the same radical left-wing type events. Never are they out there attacking the Ayatollah for what he's doing to the people in Iran. Never are they out there attacking Erdogan or the Islamo Nazi that runs Syria, attacking them for what they're doing. By the way, the Kurds are Muslims. They're just not the right kind of Muslims. You get the point. They don't march in the streets when Christians are being murdered in Nigeria, in the Congo, in the Sudan. Never. And they certainly don't march in the streets when Jews are being attacked or synagogues are being burned to the ground, because they support all that. So these are Marxist Islamists and probably neo-fascists now thrown in with them. No different than the Klan, no different than the neo-Nazis, no different than the red shirts. And this war on ICE is relentless, and another president would back down. Well, actually, any of the Democrats who want to be president right now would not use ICE to deport anybody. Anybody. I mean, they used to say, the Democrats, they're going in there without warrants. Now, warrants for the purpose of deporting, first of all, tracking down, cuffing, detaining, and then deporting are different than warrants where you go to federal court. They're not going to federal court. They go to immigration courts. And a wide latitude of individuals have the power to get warrants and to enforce warrants under our federal immigration laws. So it doesn't have to be the marshals. It doesn't even have to be ICE. Now, it's amazing to me that the lawlessness in the streets and the people here illegally who are here violating our laws, they demand compliance with our laws. So they use our laws against us, as I tell you they always do, and then they demand absolute conformity with the law, which we have. Where have there been any civil rights violations? Where? Where have there been any violations of due process? Where? Such as it is, and it's not full due process of the sort an American citizen would get. These people are running wildly across our country. They are rogue. They are violent. They are obstructing. They're insurrectionists. That's exactly what they are, insurrectionists. And for some reason, of course, if the president were to use the Insurrection Act, they would compare him to Hitler, even though it's been used 30 times before, since nearly the beginning of the Republic, by Democrats and Republicans alike. It's just crazy. But if the Democrats win this battle, it's over. If we can't deport people who are here illegally, it's over. The battle's over. If the court rules that birthright citizenship is a constitutional right, if it concocts such an argument, and these people are allowed to stay, it's over. It's over. And the next Democrat, look at this Newsom. What a schmuck. What a phony fraud. What a buffoon. What a drama queen. Over in Davos. Guys run his state into the ground. People are trying to find ways to rebuild their homes and palisades. He doesn't give a damn. Illegal aliens have almost as many rights as citizens. In fact, citizens are second-class citizens, and illegal aliens are treated like first-class citizens. He's run up the price of fuel. He's run up the price of everything. He's run businesses out of that state. They turned the greatest state in the Union, that's right, was the greatest state in the Union, into a third world hellhole. That's right, I said it. Now here in Virginia, we've got a governor who ran as a moderate, who was a wolf in wolf's clothing. She's a fraud and a phony. Oh, she worked at the CIA. She must be one of us. Bull crap. It's like that idiot from Michigan, that senator. Another one worked at the CIA. CIA needs to increase its standards. That's what that tells me. But they have a whole array of things they're doing. Massively increasing taxes. Of course, they want some kind of a tax on the rich, so the rich will leave. And what's rich? But they want to tax average folks in Virginia. Increase taxes on food that's delivered to your home. They want to add an additional tax. They want to change the voting system so it's like in California, so Republicans can never win again. Like it is how Mondami won. They want to change it to that kind of a voting system. We don't really have political parties nominating somebody. You have a system where, oh, the top two get this and the next three get that, because they know that the Democrats outnumber the Republicans. And they know that way they get Democrats in the general election running against Democrats. It's the biggest scam. They're so friggin' corrupt, it's not even funny. And so they want to permanently change the way we do business, the way we vote. And then they claim to care about voting. Oh, we want voting rights for everybody. No, they don't. No, they don't. Now, there's a report out that 85% of Afghani families with children are on welfare. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? You see that report? 85%. 85%. Take that. Takes the Somalians, rather. What's going on in Minnesota? There's a significant population of Afghanis in Virginia, some of whom are great patriots. I know some. But I'm not talking about the patriots. I'm talking about the others who are on welfare, 85% who have children. Now, it wasn't that long ago that if you were coming to the United States, you couldn't go on welfare. You had to show that you could take care of yourself. I remember when our friend John McCain used to say, who's going to pick the lettuce? Is somebody picking lettuce, Mr. Producer? Are the Somalis picking lettuce or the Afghanis? Who's picking lettuce? The late, great Milton Friedman, who was a hero of mine, he made the point many times. You cannot have open borders in a welfare state. It will destroy the country. Well, we have open borders in a welfare state like nobody's ever seen before. And it's destroying the country. We're doing everything the wrong way. Whether it's the Islamists coming in, the border wide open, whether it's the communist Chinese sending pregnant women over here to have 100,000 babies a year, Then they go back with their children, but their children are basically dual citizens of communist China and America. And they have access to everything they want. Why? Because you can't discriminate against citizens, one against the other. Communist Chinese are playing it. All right, I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. You know, Bill Hagerty's never been on the show. I can't say I blame him. He's a good man. He's really good senator. And we wanted to talk to him about a couple of issues here, including ICE and Iran. Senator, how are you?
I'm great, Mark. Thanks for the great compliment.
It's my pleasure. And why don't we get started with Iran? You know, I'm watching the Democrats. They're attacking ICE more than they're attacking what that regime in Iran is doing to its people. Do you feel we're moving a tremendous amount of military assets and resources into that area? Do you feel that we're going to take some action, that it's just a matter of time?
Well, Mark, President Trump is certainly making that an option. He's moving 2 carrier strike groups into the region. That is an impressive show of force, I can assure you. You've probably been on an aircraft carrier. It's something only the United States can do. It's delivering, an incredible show of strength, I'll say that, to a regime that only understands power. They talk a big talk about let's negotiate, let's do diplomacy, but that's always been just their means to buy more time so they can do more evil. And President Trump, I think, is rightly putting everything in position to make it clear that the Iranians have done what he told them not to do. They've slaughtered and murdered people in the streets of their country. This is sending a very strong message to the theocracy, the leadership there, that this is serious business. That Trump means everything that he said.
And Senator, that regime has killed hundreds of Americans through its, surrogates and so forth. And that regime has no intention of stopping. I mean, it's just, it's for them, it is a religious war. They fund enemies in this country right now. They've tried to assassinate our president. They've threatened his life now 5 times in the last 3 weeks. I mean, the people there are good people. They are Westerners mostly. They are very well educated. They're very young. And to see these pictures, you've seen the photos and the video, these poor young kids, in many cases, staring into the sky. They're dead, their eyes wide open. They must have wondered, what in the hell is happening to me, while they were being shot, in the back, in the head, and all the rest of it. And it's still going on. Just terrible. Yeah,
it's just incredible. You talk about the death and the mayhem that the Iranians have created since 1976, when this theocracy took control. I mean, they've got American blood on there, and hundreds of Americans. Think about what they've done with Israel. Think about what they've done in the entire region by funding and fueling this sort of terror that has gone on, whether it be Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis in Yemen. You think about their own IRGC and their activities. They have destabilized the entire Middle East. That's their objective. And we know one thing, Mark. The only thing that works with them is maximum pressure. When I served in President Trump's first administration, we imposed maximum pressure. We got out of the JCPOA. We imposed maximum pressure on Iran. And what happened? Peace began breaking out. The Iranians certainly didn't have the resources that they had been accustomed to. You think about, go back to the Obama administration. The Iranian economy was in tatters. What did Obama do? 2015, pallets of cash, billions of dollars. They're right back into the terror business again. President Trump had the foresight to stop that, and we were at a breaking point, close to a breaking point, when John Kerry, you remember our former Secretary of State, John Kerry, encouraged the Iranians to wait and see what happened in the 2020 election. Perhaps the Democrats would wind up in the White House. Well, that's exactly what happened. Immediately, they took the Houthis off the terror watch list. They stopped enforcing the sanctions on Iran. Funds began to flow, and terror flowed throughout the Middle East. You can look no further than the Biden administration and the contrast between the first Trump administration to see the impact. Trump comes back into office, maximum pressure again, and we see a very different situation with Iran right now. The bunker bombs, I think, send a very clear message, and moving these two carrier strike groups into position, I don't know how the Iranian theocracy doesn't take this extremely seriously.
Yeah, no, you're right. And then we look in our own country. What's going on, this war against ICE, it is relentless. It's loaded with propaganda. You've got Democrat demagogues. You've got professional sort of militia out there. They're very violent. They show up at different events, whether it's about Gaza, and then it's about ICE, and they have the similar signs and everything else. Is the Senate, you think, looking into this, trying to figure out who's funding all this? I mean, so much of it seems contrived.
It certainly does seem contrived, Mark, and I think you're onto something in terms of our oversight. This is domestic terror when you break it down the way you just did. To the extent this is organized, that it's controlled, that it's coordinated, and I see the similarities that you just pointed out. And it's not just what's happening in Minneapolis; it's happening across the country. My sense is that there are definitely a group of people here that would love to see a repeat of the George Floyd playbook. Mm-hmm. They like to destabilize everything ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. That seems to be the direction they're going. They don't care about a lot of the positive things that are happening in America. The fact is that Americans overwhelmingly voted to stop this illegal immigration, to get these people out. President Trump could not have been more clear, and he was delivered a mandate to do that. But these far-left extremists, however they're organized, are certainly not going to accept the will of the people as an answer. And this destabilization effort does seem to me, as you said, you start connecting the dots the way you just did. It does seem coordinated, and to the extent that's happening, there is something very serious that we should be looking into.
You know, Senator, a lot of people are moving to your state. You have no income tax. Florida, of course, Texas, Nevada. One of the great things we have in this country is mobility, but it's also very upsetting, isn't it, that people have to leave who maybe have lived in a particular area for generations because the states are so badly run, and then they change the voting systems. Right now, in the state of Virginia, the governor and the Democrat legislature just got in office. They're trying to change the voting system to turn it into the California voting system, the New York City voting system. So they basically, in the general election, have two Democrats running against each other while these people run around and talk about the right to vote and so forth and so on. These people play for keeps, don't they? And I mean, Virginia goes back and forth, but they want to make sure it doesn't go forth. It just goes back to the Democrats.
I think that the motivation is very obvious, Mark, and you saw it happen in 2021 as well. The way we designate our legislation in the House and the Senate, as we call them, we give them a number. Well, H.R. 1, that's the House of Representatives, the number one piece of legislation in 2021 when Nancy Pelosi was in charge of the House of Representatives, when the Democrats had control of the Senate. S1 was what the companion bill was called. It was all about changing all the rules with respect to voting. Unlimited mail-out ballots, no limits on the use of ballot harvesting, just the sweep and the overreach that they attempted. We blocked it. But it's clear this is a top priority for Democrats. It was in 2021 when they had control. They weren't able to affect it then. You see what they're doing at the state level. And if you look back to the 2024 election, what were the states that Kamala Harris won? They were the states with no voter ID.
Can we hold you over, Senator?
Certainly.
By the way, Senator Hagerty has the greatest radio voice. I'd kill for that voice. We'll be right back. If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We're here with Senator Bill Hagerty of the great state of Tennessee. Senator, the Democrats love to close the government, then blame the Republicans. I mean, they blew up Obamacare, which was a disaster, and tons of Americans' taxpayer dollars go into this black hole. The Republicans are trying to reform this. The president has a plan. And the Democrats desperately want to shut down the government again. What is the status of this?
Well, you know, they've used the Unaffordable Care Act as their excuse to do it. The Biden administration came in and did plussed up. They blamed it on COVID. They said they needed to do COVID era additional subsidies. But the way they did it, Mark, and I think a lot of our listeners know this too, rather than give the subsidies to the individuals, to the taxpayers, to the people, they sent the subsidies directly to the insurance companies to get them to artificially suppress the premiums, to suppress the rate, to basically mask the fact that the costs have run out of control with Obamacare. And if you think about it, all types of things are required to be covered by Obamacare. I certainly wouldn't. I have to have it because I'm a U.S. Senator. It's in legislation that I have to buy my insurance through the exchange. No one in their right mind would do it if they weren't forced like I was. But I have to pay for services, Mark, that I would never use. Gender care, gender transition surgery care, abortions, things of this nature. And the American public ought to be allowed to buy what they want. That's what President Trump is saying. Instead, we've got this wholly unaffordable plan that's been subject to massive fraud as a result of the Democrats running the program in the states. You've seen all the evidence, or some of it. We haven't seen all of it. But it's incredible how fraught this is with fraud and abuse. So our efforts to clean it up have been met with a wholesale talk to the hand by the Democrats. They think this is a winning issue for them because they think it's simple politics. They can blame it on somebody else. But they're the ones. Everybody knows that Barack Obama delivered this to us. We're in control of both branches of government right now in the White House. We need to focus very clearly on fixing this. But fix it with something that actually works for Americans, not this catch-all program that Barack Obama and his team designed.
Why are they so committed to this? Are they committed to it because it's their foothold into government-run Bernie Sanders-type health care?
I've got to believe that, Mark, because it's become such a large part of our total economy. I mean, healthcare spending keeps going up, and they want to control it. Just like, they've made every effort with Elizabeth Warren, the legislation that she undertakes, central bank digital currency. They want to control the financial system. They want to get control of the big chunks of the economy. They try to do it with energy under the Biden administration. Again, taking control, mandating, that sort of thing. It's in my mind, it's clearly a big target. It's one where they can provide a lot of dependency, and dependency in their minds translates into more votes for Democrats. We've just got to disabuse them of that and make this really clear to the public. They masked it, they hid it, they used smoke and mirrors, if you will, by sending the subsidies direct to the insurance companies, which went straight to their bottom line. The amount of fraud, if you just look at the number, Mark, of people who have what they call zero premium policies. It means they pay nothing every month. A lot of them don't even know they have policies because at the same time Biden implemented this, they put in place a $1,000 per enrollee bounty for brokers. And so the broker could sign somebody up. They got $1,000. They kept loading them onto the rolls of the insurance companies. What happened was, in any given year, normally this population, about 20% of them would not have a claim. And that's not unheard of. You wouldn't have a claim in a given year. You're very healthy, whatever the case may be. That number doubled That number doubled as soon as they went into this zero premium program with all these brokers out here pumping the system and sending the money directly to the insurance companies. The insurance companies aren't motivated to report anything, but we know there is a tremendous amount of fraud and people are being insured that don't even know that they've got insurance, but the insurance companies are pocketing the profit. So it's a broken system, got to be fixed. And the fact that the Democrats, again, are threatening to shut the government down to defend this is just unconscionable.
That comes up soon, right? In a month or so, or am I wrong about that?
It'll be at the end of this month. That's why there's a lot of activity happening right now. I don't think it's made its way into the headlines, but there's been a lot of work at the staff level to try to get the appropriations bills that have not yet been passed onto the floor of the House, onto the floor of the Senate, because to the extent we can pass appropriations bills, that reduces Schumer's leverage when it comes to the end of the period here, January 30th, which is when the continuing resolution extended the budget. If we can have actual appropriations bills passed and get 60, 80, 90% of the budget done, that dramatically reduces the pain that Schumer can inflict. And I think it really takes away their teeth when they threaten to come and shut us down again.
You think that's going to succeed? The
We're
Congress...
on track to do it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to do, but the work has been done. The work has been processed, and literally the teams have been working over the weekends at night. I'm on the Appropriations Committee in the Senate. Our job isn't to set the overall budget, but it's to try to responsibly cut it up. We are delivering a product that is at least in the right direction, not nearly enough by my, according to my desire, but at least we're reducing the spend from prior years, and we're starting to move in the right direction. We've got a lot more work to do.
Do you ever wake up and then you go into the Senate and you say, first of all, I love my job, I love it here, but what the hell is with these people? I mean, do you ever think to yourself, there's no common sense here, they're kind of owned by the radical left? It's just every turn you take, whether it's securing the border or getting some spending under control or limiting taxes, they just fight like hell for the opposite position.
I know, Mark, there definitely are times like that, and I'd go even further. Mark, there are times when I feel something very dark, and I'm a religious person. There are days when it's very dark. I recall one vote that I brought to the floor of the Senate, very simple, trying to remove the motivation for the crime that happened at our collapsed southern border when Biden came into office. That motivation, as you know, is power. It's about voting, and specifically, I tried to put in place legislation. I put it on the floor of the Senate, because the Democrats kept saying, well, it's a conspiracy theory. This is not true. We're doing this for humanitarian reasons. When I asked every Democrat to vote with me, and every Republican was willing to do it, when I asked every Democrat to vote with me to stop allocating congressional districts and electoral votes based on the number of illegal people that are in a given state, every single Democrat voted to continue that process, continue that practice of counting illegals for the purpose of allocating power in the Congress. That controls the mix in the U.S. House of Representatives. The estimates are 5 to 7 additional seats go to California because illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, are counted in the census for the purpose of reallocating those congressional districts, which goes directly then into how many electoral votes that California has. So you look at where they plant the sanctuary cities. It's in these big blue states that are losing population otherwise. It's in New York. It's in Illinois. It's in California. Think about it. New York City, Chicago, San Francisco, L.A. That's the motive behind the crime, and the Democrats demonstrated it loud and clear when every one of them voted against me to stop allowing this to happen. Those are dark days, Mark, dark days for our country when this type of thing occurs.
Well, they can't hang on without illegal aliens being counted. It is incredible. Your point is very important because they get additional congressional seats. You're talking about the Electoral College. And you're also talking about somebody who represents, say, a district that has 30% illegal aliens. And let's say it's in the inner city or just outside the inner city. Who do they represent? They're not representing American citizens all the time. They're representing illegal aliens. And so the border has to be open. You don't deport people. You're seeing this in Minneapolis with Omar and so forth because she represents so many illegal immigrants, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. While we were on break, somebody heard us, a friend heard us talking about elections and the Democrats' focus on them, whether it's putting illegals into the process or the text that I just got while we were on break was a photo of Alex Soros, George Soros' son, with their Open Society Foundation, showing off his latest purchase at the World Economic Forum. Is a photo of Alex Soros standing next to Gavin Newsom. Their focus at the Soros Foundation is elections. They've come into my state, Mark. They've come into Memphis, Tennessee, with $600,000 to support a Yale law graduate who is now the district attorney of Shelby County of Memphis, who has turned around and let everybody go, demoralized the police, reduced everyone's charges, and it's been just a complete disaster. They find leverage points like this, using local elections, using state elections, and certainly federal elections. And their focus, you can't understate the point that you made. They're very focused on it because they found a way to be very effective.
Well, Senator, I'm glad you're here. We'd like to have you back. And you're doing a fantastic job for the people at Tennessee. And I should know, we have 2 kids and 2 grandkids living in Tennessee. So thank you very, very much, Senator.
Terrific, Mark. It's great to be on with you. Thank you so much for having me.
You too. God bless. I've come to like him a lot, actually. And he's been very solid. Very solid. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If your credit card balance is freaking you out after all the holiday spending, I have something that can save you money right now. Cut your cell phone bill in half by switching to Pure Talk Saver Plan. Just $20 a month for unlimited talk, text, and 3 gigs of high-speed data on Pure Talk's super-fast nationwide 5G network. As a veteran-led company that cares about giving back to those who serve, if you're active or former military or a first responder, you'll save an additional 20% every single month. The easiest way to free up cash flow is to reduce your monthly recurring bills. Start with cutting overpriced wireless and switching to my wireless company. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and make the switch today in as little as 10 minutes. Again, talk, text, and data, just $20 a month. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is America's wireless company. Somebody named Representative Delia Ramirez at a hearing today introduces the Melt Ice Act. Isn't she clever? Isn't she clever? We have people in this country, some of whom are newly minted, some of whom are second generation, who hate the country. You look at Omar. She was embraced by our country. She left the refugee camp in some hellhole called Somalia. She comes into this country. She marries her brother. Then she marries somebody else. She's made millions. People are trying to figure out how. I don't think it's that hard to figure out. She's elected to Congress. And she hates the country. Just keeps trashing the hell out of the country. This shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't even have people like this in our Congress who are elected by people who think the same way. Look at Tlaib. I think she's first, second generation into this country, Palestinian. Just hates the country. It's constant. Constant. And then, of course, you got these old bastards like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was a laughingstock in Vermont forever. He kept running for Mayor Burlington. He finally wins. And then you see what happens. He's taken seriously. This guy's a Stalinist, and he's taken seriously. But here is Delia Ramirez at a hearing today. Cut 21, go.
I am introducing today the Melt Ice Act that would prohibit DHS from using funds to detain or monitor immigrants, effectively limiting ICE's authority and ability to continue to cause pain and terror. DHS.
Well, of course. We can't have ICE do its job under the existing federal law. So now when you are enforcing federal law, this particular federal law that's been on the books for at least 70 years, you're terrorizing these people. Now you're trying to detain them and remove them. Yes, you're terrorizing them. And I keep hearing the same thing. They go to a Home Depot. They need to be able to go to a Home Depot. Go to a church. They need to be able to go to church. Oh, they're in a hospital. They need to be a courthouse. They need to be able to... Well, where the hell can you pick them up? Nowhere. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. And then you got this Swalwell. What a lowlife this guy is. You have to He sticks to the bottom of your shoe. You got to, Anyway, so he says, if I become governor, I'm going to make sure they don't have immunity. Now, first of all, to show you what a sleazeball this guy is, he has no authority over federal employees, federal law enforcement, to tell them that they don't get immunity. And under the supremacy clause, if the state passes a law and says, well, under state law, they won't get immunity and you can sue them, that will fail too. So he's a demagogue. He's a propagandist. He's a freak, a fraud, and a phony. But look at the effort to literally destroy our ability to detain criminals. People even beyond their criminal status. We have every right to deport people who are here illegally. Period. But now we're talking about people who've committed heinous crimes in our country. Foreigners come into our country and they kill Americans and they rape American children and they rob American businesses. And we literally have representatives in Congress, all Democrats, all of them, who come to their defense because they're part of their constituency. Think about this. She's not alone, of course. I got a whole list of them here. It's so grotesque, these people. They just are. All right. Our Power Hour is next. The show's flying by. We love it. We'll see you in a moment. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. This was kind of shocking. From our friends at Breitbart. Top secret, thousands of Chinese pilots are trained every year in California and Arizona, strengthening the CCP's, the Communist Party's military. New York Times bestselling author and Breitbart News contributor Peter Schweitzer, a good friend of ours, details in his new book how the Chinese Communist Party is using our openness, and generosity against us by sending... there's my wife. Come over to the microphone. You've been gone, working hard all day.
Good evening, America.
Good evening, America. Working at American First Legal.
Yes.
The general counsel there.
I am.
Are you suing the hell out of these bums?
There's a lot of work to do. Yes, we are.
Okay.
We're doing the work of good people for the American people.
Amen.
Amen.
Well, good to see you, honey.
Hey, it's good to see you, my love.
Okay.
It's only been 10 hours.
Yeah,
right?
It's been a long time. She works hard. Anyway, Peter Schweitzer details in his new book how the Chinese Communist Party is using our openness and generosity against us by sending thousands of future military pilots posing as civilians to our country to learn how to fly. Now, you'd think by now that we'd be putting an end to this. It's in his new book, The Invisible Coup. It delves into the little-known concern of Chinese pilots being sent to the U.S. for training, with virtually no oversight before returning and serving in their own country's military. In his book, The Invisible Coup, he says the People's Republic of China has a pilot program. Beijing needs 5,000 pilot cadets every year to meet the demand for both military and civilian pilots. And because the Chinese military tightly controls the country's airspace, it can domestically produce only about 1,200 pilots a year. So Beijing quietly erected a system to train 3,000 of them a year in the United States. How the hell do these people get away with this? Will somebody tell me? Across the U.S., at least 16 flight schools operating out of taxpayer-funded airports are training communist Chinese cadets, sometimes without disclosing their foreign military ties. They should go to prison. They do so by sending future military pilots to the United States posing as civilians to learn how to fly. This also applies to Chinese helicopter pilots who receive American training by the thousands after entering the country on student visas with minimal scrutiny. I'm telling you, revolution by immigration, it's going to destroy this country. It's already destroying it. It's a cancer eating from within. How this happened is a testament, writes Schweitzer, to Chinese ingenuity in manipulating our immigration system for subversive purposes and using our openness and generosity against us. It is also tribute to American innocence, or at worst, ignorance. Or I would add, our stupidity. The ruling class stupidity. One of the several flight schools that the Civilian Aviation Administration of China sends future military pilots to is Sierra Academy of Aeronautics in Atwater, California, where most of the students are Chinese nationals. Of course, it never occurred to the owner to figure that out, did it? Schweitzer says it's not a mistake, it's a design. Sierra Academy's owner, John Yoon, Y-O-O-N, has several related companies with extensive Chinese ties, Schweitzer reports, adding that Sierra Academy has developed plans to create a cargo facility at California's Castle Airport to fly goods in and out of China. And we're hoping to use EB-5 money from China to do it. Because Sierra Academy has been working with the Chinese government, institutions, airlines, we have all the right contacts to put this program in place, explained Brian Johnson, Sierra's vice president and chief flight instructor, in 2013 interview with the Merced Sun Star. I bet. Sure they do. They're selling both aviation training and U.S. residency. A double win for Beijing, Schweitzer points out. I'm telling you, his book is unbelievable. You really ought to get it. The Invisible Coup. Documents cited in The Invisible Coup show that Sierra Academy works with Chinese colleagues involved in aeronautical manufacturing, including those embedded with military contractors and talent pipelines to the CCP. As a result, the U.S. is feeding a pipeline of Chinese pilots, some of whom may one day face American forces in the skies. Locals have been pointing this out, with resident Fred Warkle asking why train potential enemies to fly. Well, that seems like a rational question, doesn't it, Mr. Producer? Hundreds of Chinese students are receiving initial and advanced flight training here in Merced at the Sierra Academy of Aeronautics. He continued, this means if Chinese and American pilots ever engage in combat, both may be able to say we received our training in America at the former Castle Air Force Base. Then, of course, we're building a facility in Idaho, one of our air bases, for our friends, the Qataris. Can't forget that, can we? Similar situation is happening near Phoenix, Arizona, with a company called AeroGuard, which is also training hundreds of Chinese pilots, as Schweitzer recounts in The Invisible Coup. He says in 2022, the company signed an agreement to train pilots for the Chinese government-controlled Cathay Pacific Airline, with plans to train hundreds of cadet pilots at its campus in Phoenix, Arizona. This is suicide. Suicide. The deal was even approved by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security during the Biden regime, thanks to the work of local Congressman Greg Stanton. As AeroGuard put it in a press release, Arizona Congressman Greg Stanton, a member of the House Subcommittee on Aviation, assisted AeroGuard in securing and expediting the training program approval with DHS. Representative Stanton's support was invaluable in making sure the approvals were obtained in a timely fashion. Well, there you go. And this book, The Invisible Coup, by Schweitzer, has more examples, alarming, frightening details on the American training of communist Chinese pilots. Did you ever think, Mr. Producer, how is it that in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, I would argue even in the 70s, probably in the 80s, none of this happened, or very little of it happened? How is that the case that now it's happening everywhere? Well, I'll tell you how it is. There once upon a time, the Democrat Party was actually patriotic. Now, we didn't agree with it, quite liberal and so forth. But today, Marxist, Islamist, radical as hell, trashing America at every turn. Open borders? 30 years ago, Democrat Party didn't support open borders. It agreed with Republicans to secure the border. 30 years ago, they would never have attacked the equivalent of ICE, which was trying to remove murderers and rapists and so forth and so on. 30 years ago, it never would have embraced somebody like Mondami, a Marxist, a bigot, a Jew hater. They never would have done that. But then again, 30 years ago, somebody like Tucker Carlson would have been called a traitor for arguing that Iran should have nuclear weapons. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Last night, I'd say about 1 in the morning, give or take. I guess this morning. Another night where I couldn't sleep. My wife says to me, as we sit here, people in Iran are being slaughtered. As you sit where you are, whether you're in your car, your dinner table, your business, wherever you are, I want you to think about this. People in Iran are being slaughtered. People the age of your daughters and granddaughters, or if you're a young person listening, just like you. It's not just people who are protesting now, or were protesting. It's people who happen to be on the street at night. They're just walking up and executing them. You know, one of the great things about America is our morality. It's under attack. It's under attack through certain types of immigrants. It's under attack by the Democrat Party. It's under attack in many respects by our judicial system, but we are a moral people. Read the Declaration of Independence. We are a godly people. We are people that cherish human life, every single individual's life. That's what individual liberty is all about, a respect for the individual. Now, I want you to go down this path with me, please. When somebody's killed, that's it. They're done. Maybe there's an afterlife, maybe not. I'm not getting into that. When somebody is killed here on earth, everything is eliminated for them. Everything. You know, we exist as human beings. We're not always sure what our purpose is. But certain things motivate us. We have certain interests. Many of us pray. We try to lead a good life. Why? Why does it even matter? Because that's what good people do. So when people are killed, murdered, because they want to live a good life, because they want to practice their faith the way they want to practice it without molesting or hindering anybody else, because they want to pursue what their soul tells them to pursue, their mind tells them what to pursue, and they're killed for it, murdered, hunted down like animals. Some of them are tortured, raped, and then they're murdered. Some are beaten to death. I don't know what this hanging, nobody was hanged today. Thousands of people are being murdered. If they're murdered with a Q-tip, they're still murdered. I don't hear the Democrats speaking out. The media's almost all gone silent. Some of us are older, I confess. I wasn't alive during World War II. Some people listening were. Fewer and fewer, unfortunately. What was it that caused the greatest generation to be the greatest generation? And it was the greatest generation. We were attacked. By whom? By the Japanese. Why? Because they were Imperial Japan, imperialists. They wanted to conquer us. We declared war after they attacked us. Then Germany and Italy declared war on us, and we went into World War II. Why did it matter? Because we're Americans and they're Japanese? No, it mattered because what it means to be an American. What we believe in. That was a horrific war. It was a bloody war. The New York Times covered up the Holocaust until late 1944. As did the Washington Post. As did the vast majority of the American media. But when our troops liberated several of these concentration camps, when General Eisenhower, who'd seen everything, went to a concentration camp with Omar Bradley and George Patton, and Patton wouldn't even go into the area where the bodies were stacked up 20, 30 feet high. The stench could be smelled for miles around. Eisenhower was moved like never before. So he said, so he wrote. He wanted to draw the world's attention to what had taken place. He knew the Nazis were evil, but he said, I never knew they were capable of this. I've never seen anything like this in my life. He forced the American media to come to this concentration camp and take black and white movie pictures and to take pictures. Because he said, I don't want this to ever be forgotten. I don't want people to say it never happened. And yet we still have people. The Fuenteses, the Carlsons, just really traitors to humanity, who downplay it all or even celebrate it. Them aside, that's not my point. This kind of thing is going on right now. Right now. In Iran. In Syria. There's no peace in Iran. There's no peace in Syria. The Iranian people are Persian people. Persians, they go back thousands of years. They embrace Western values and beliefs and principles. They're Westerners, effectively. They're not Arabs. Highly educated. Very close families. Like yours, like mine. And they're being slaughtered. Pillage. Rape, like you read about the Vikings. Well, these people are worse than the Vikings. This regime. Worse. Like ISIS slaughtering the Kurds. ISIS, decapitation, disfigurement, debauchery. The Kurds are allies. What did they ever do? Nothing. Erdogan. He's behind the whole damn thing in Turkey. Qatar's behind it. They're behind the regime in Iran. They're behind the regime in Syria. I feel we're going to do something about this. I pray to God we are. I hope we're moving our military assets there. Not for show, but to destroy these bastards once and for all. I'll be right back.
Nobody says it better than Mark Levin.
I'll go with what Mark Levin said, because nobody could say it better.
Call in now at 877-381-3811.
All right, let's go to David, Golden Valley, Arizona, XM Satellite. David, how are you today?
Fine, thank you, sir, for your outstanding radio program. I appreciate you taking this call.
Thank you, brother.
On birthrights, Article 3, both parents must be U.S.-born citizens or naturalized citizens. Number 2, both parents must be present at time of birth. 3, the child must be 6 months old.
Where are you reading this? 6 months old and all the rest of it.
Constitution.
6 months old is in the Constitution? Where is that?
It's in Article 3.
Uh-huh.
You have to have an older Constitution to find it. To finish number 3, they must be 6 months old to be eligible for citizenship. So you don't get citizenship just because you're born here.
First of all, you don't get citizenship just because you're born here, because the jurisdiction language has been perverted. That's the main reason you don't get citizenship. And the history is clear. Now, both parents don't have to be citizens. That's not correct. And they don't have to be here for 6 months to qualify either. If you have two people who come here and they're naturalized citizens and it happens in a period of less than 6 months, I don't know that it ever does, but if it does and they have a child, that child is an American citizen.
He has to be 6 months old.
But that's not the problem, really, is it? We don't have a long line of people with illegal alien children because of that. We have a long line of people with illegal alien children because they come here and they give birth. And we're talking about birthright citizenship, which, of course, does not exist. But I worry about what this court's going to do very much. All right, David, appreciate your call. Let's go to Tony, Montreal, Canada, XM Satellite. Go right ahead. Yes, sir.
We are in a civilizational war. You know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And what most people don't understand is what you understand. There's 56 embassies in the United States from the country of Mexico that are prolificating and propagating and propagandizing the destruction of your country through immigration. Mm-hmm. And they are organizing all of these anti-ICE and financing them with the Islamofascists in your country that are in Dearborn, in northern Alberta, in Edmonton, and in their enclaves in Texas. So you're calling out Islamification. I call them jihadists, Islamists, and they're militant. I'm not talking about people that are peaceful Muslims, if there are, but anybody that believes in Sharia or Shariist advocacy means that you're, as far as I'm concerned, you're advocating for treason. You're advocating for the revolution, the overturning of the inherent.
If somebody believes, as a Muslim who believes in Sharia law, but also believes in the Constitution and that's the authority for governance and politics in our country, and they don't view the Sharia as a political document, I know many of these people, they are great citizens. The problem is, too many don't view it that way. And I've had people say to me, and I'm making this point, I've made it before, they said, well, there's 2 billion Muslims around the world, and most of them don't do this sort of thing. And I thought to myself, and I've expressed this, well, let's say that 1% of them do. That's 2 million. Let's say that 5% of them do. And certainly we know there are certain countries that are run by these Islamists. Now, Indonesia has the largest Muslim population. It's a democracy of sorts, and it's a great ally of ours. And it recognizes the state of Israel, Jewish state. It recognizes Christians and so forth. That's why I have some disagreement with you. But that said, what you're talking about are not the types of people that run CARE, the Muslim Brotherhood, Students for Justice in Palestine, and on and on and on. These are Islamists. These are radicals. And these are people who seek to destroy the United States from within. And by the way, when you look overseas, they're killing Muslims who don't buy into what they're doing either, like the Kurds, like many Iranians and others. Thank you for your call, my friend. Canada's got a hell of a problem because you had an idiot as a prime minister let all these people in, Trudeau, and anti-Semitism and anti-Canadianism is rampant in Canada right now, rampant. Rob, Baltimore, Maryland, on the Mark Levin app. How are you, Rob?
Hey. Hi,
Hello.
Mark.
How are you?
Nice. Yes, good, Mark. First-time caller to you. I actually called into your show a month or so ago when you had somebody filling in. But anyhow, Mark, I hear you. Just two things real quick. I hear you about Iran. I hope and pray that God will have mercy on these people and that Trump does the right thing. So, on that, and then on this birthright citizenship thing, I heard you earlier. I was thinking, basically, our country's sovereignty is in the hands of these judges in black robes.
That's a great way to put it.
And then,
yes.
Yes. And what I fear is, like I know you said you fear about the ruling, is that either Barrett or Roberts, it's going to be like a 5-4 decision, because she's going to go off emotion, and then they don't want the backlash, you know what I mean? But then the question I have is, Mark, if they rule in favor that, of birthright citizenship, the parents, are they automatically, and all their family members, so they're automatically going to become citizens and eligible to vote?
They're not. They're not. They don't automatically become citizens because the children do, no. But when the children become majority age, 18 and older, we have something also called chain migration. Again, almost no country has birthright citizenship except us, and it wasn't chosen by the people or the framers, and almost no country has chain migration. That means they can bring in all sorts of relatives, perhaps up to 20 or 30. And this is what I'm saying. Between the Democrats trying to destroy ICE and limit their ability to deport illegal aliens, and the Democrats who opened the border in the first place to bring these people in and actually flew them into our country. And, of course, if birthright citizenship is upheld and chain migration, I don't see how we overcome this in the next 10 or 20 or 30 years. I think our children are in for a hell of a time. I really do.
So basically, they're just giving away. So that if they rule in favor, like I said, I don't mean to repeat.
No, you're right.
If they rule in favor of this, they're giving away our sovereignty. We might as well just, this country's gone. What's the sense of voting anymore for anything?
Well, I wouldn't say that. You got to fight to the last vote and fight to the last civil liberty. You can't just surrender to these people. You got to do everything you can. We have people who've died on the battlefield, given everything. So I'm a big believer in convention of states. I really think that's the only way to reform most of this. I'm told that the President of the United States now supports it as well. And we need to get behind this. All right, my friend, I appreciate it. We're going to take a little break, and then we'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Let's go to John, North Bergen, New Jersey. How are you, John?
Yes, Mark, I'm okay. I hope you are the same, you and your family.
So far, so good. Thank you.
I was going to talk about the Supreme Court, but I've been listening to you very carefully. It does not matter what the Supreme Court says or does. What matters, Mark, is Donald Trump, us, great American citizens, and this country. I am a veteran also. and I just turned 80. I would serve my country again if my country needs me. I'm in good health. Don't take medication. Don't need it. I would serve my country. But one thing I would do first, if given a little bit responsibility and power by our government, is to get rid of the communist socialists in our government first. Why? Because we get the power, the righteous power back. We have the power now, but we're losing it because of the evil people in our government. And you know who I'm talking about. Am I right?
Yep.
Now,
you've got an enemy within. You've got a poison that is poisoning the body politic. And they're in the culture. The president's trying to address all this. But look, after 3 years, the president can only do so much in the time that he has. The next president, God willing, a conservative Republican, needs to pick up where he leaves off and keep at it. We got to keep at it for, 10, 20, 30 years, and then maybe we can get our country back. You can't just have one president do it, and then we get a Republican that says, well, I'm different. I remember after Reagan when George H.W. Bush talked about a kinder and gentler America and basically rejected Reaganism. It was shocking. It was appalling because he won thanks to Reagan. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, Mark. That's why we can't wait or think we're going to get another Republican. This is something I got to say.
Well, I don't think the president is waiting. Here's the problem. You've got courts. They're not affected by how we vote. You've got faculty, academia. They're not affected by how we vote. We now have people in this country who shouldn't be here, and are having children who shouldn't be here. So there are things that the permanent government's doing that the unelected parts of the government are doing, and it's not so simple that they shouldn't be here and so forth and so on. It becomes daunting and complex, and that's why you've got to go into the culture, into the system, and find out ways to remove them and to prevent others from coming. And I think that is what they're trying to do. And I'm sorry to say it is going to take more than President Trump. It's going to take successive presidents and elections. And that's why this midterm is so damn important. And if we lose this midterm, they're going to obstruct everything in the House, and they're going to try and put Donald Trump on trial, impeach him again. Thank you for your call. So there's a lot at stake here. In the court decisions, in the midterm elections. It used to be we had an election, you lose, okay, you go back and you win the next one. Now it's existential. You lose an election, like in Virginia. They intend to change the voting system to make it like California because they don't ever want Republicans to win again. And they're instituting it right now as I speak. They got a whole phalanx of taxes that they're putting in place while they pretend they're worried about affordability. For those of you who pay taxes, and it's not everybody, apparently it's not Somalis and Afghanis who just came here. Most of them are on welfare, apparently. That's what I just read. It's not a smear. It's a fact. Why should that be? Anyway, the fact of the matter is when the Democrats get in, it's no longer comity, C-O-M-I-T-Y. It's no longer that. It's how do we seize power forever? How do we change the system so we never lose? The national level, destroy the Supreme Court and add several seats. Destroy the Electoral College. Bring in illegal aliens. So in our cities in particular, we have more congressional seats. Do whatever you have to do. The party comes first. Power comes first. When you got the party and it's a one-party state, you control everything. That's California. That's Illinois. That's New York. And some of these other states. That's Rhode Island. Just start naming them. And people are leaving. They're going to red states. But when you're importing 10 million illegal aliens, 20 million illegal aliens, and then they have children, You can't keep up. You just can't keep up. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States, the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. This is the Citizenship Clause, the 14th Amendment, Section 1. That's what it says. Now, are they going to stick to this? Are they going to play semantics when we all know the history does not provide for birthright citizenship, period? Period. The other gentleman called, I don't know what he was saying, but it doesn't really matter. I'm telling you what it says here. I want to thank you, folks. Thank you for your participation and for listening. I'm greatly blessed to have you out there. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, the men and women in Iran, and now Syria. And you, the American people, thank God for you. Same place, same time tomorrow. Have a good night.